How's it going? This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're going to replace the locking nut on our Ibanez Gem Jr. with the one that we got from Floyd Rose. And the thing about it is it's not like a normal nut. Usually we can put a nut on a guitar and file it to the proper height and everything is fine. Before we remove this nut from this guitar, we need to take a couple of measurements and understand what the string height is and where we want it. And in fact, the string height is a little high on this nut, so I want to actually make it a little bit lower. So this is a 41 millimeter nut, just like this one is, but we want to make sure that the height, so that we don't have to press down too hard on the, or too far on the strings in these lower frets, changes the entire setup of the guitar. So many times when we remove this nut, and we'll just take this off of here and I'll show you what's underneath there, because I actually already removed the bolts, is typically there is a slab of rosewood underneath here, or there are shims. Sometimes there's some shims underneath there, and depending on if this metal nut, because we cannot file this metal nut like we can file a normal one, there's typically shims that you can put underneath there, or in this case, what we've had to do is take a flat file and actually remove some of this slab so that we can lower the nut down into the guitar. And then actually that wasn't low enough, so I actually had to machine well, I didn't machine it, I just used a flat file. Filed the nut down so that we'd have the proper nut height. And I'll show you how I kind of got to that. Basically, I'll just kind of mock this up. This is not the actual measurements. But what we did was, before we removed the old nut, we would basically understand how low the nut was in the guitar by taking a straight edge across, okay? And using feeler gauges. Now there's not enough here, but using feeler gauges to understand, and I actually used a caliper to understand how high off of the fretboard the string was in these particular situations. Now I wanted it to be a little bit lower, so I did some calculations and some math and compensated to figure out how much I wanted to take out of the guitar and also how much I wanted to take off the bottom of the new nut, so that when we filed some wood from here and we removed some material from the bottom of the nut, we got down to here and we got basically the height off the fret plus about 20 thousandths or so for a string height. So that is some measurements we had to take and actually take some serious, do some serious math for a little bit to get this right. One of the other things that I ended up doing, and I'll install this now and show you, is these are not the screws from the Floyd Rose nut. These are actually the screws from the original Ibanez nut. And the reason for that is the diameter was a little bit different, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any stripping issues or any kind of problems like that. So there we are, using our Cruise Tools screwdriver. If you need tools to set up your guitar, cruisetools.com, check them out. We use them on everything. So now we've got this installed, and we can put our string blocks in. If this is something that you're not comfortable doing, take it to an experienced luthier, because there's a lot that a bunch of little math that has to happen, and some serious filing and stuff sometimes that has to happen. And if you're not comfortable with it, take it to somewhere that is comfortable doing it. Now that being said, on this particular guitar, we've talked about modifications that we're doing everything, right? Because that's the fun part of building this guitar. Replacing the nut just to replace the nut is maybe not something that is necessary if you're trying to upgrade some of the components. We changed colors is honestly the only reason why I did it. This particular nut from Ibanez is just fine. There is nothing wrong with it. However, just because we changed colors and we were working with Floyd Rose is the reason we did it. So this bar and this nut have it's not going to make any difference in the setup of the guitar. Now that being said, If you have one of these guitars and you bought it brand new and you want it to get set up properly, take it to a proper luthier and allow them to, like I said, take these measurements so they can understand what your string height is, because sometimes you can get a little bit lower action at the nut and you can make this thing play a little bit better, even on just a new guitar where you're not replacing any parts. So we've got the nut installed on there. It's done. It took a lot of work. Again, this is not something that if you do not feel comfortable filing on your guitar and don't have the facilities to make a properly flat surface on the bottom of the nut, you know, we have vices and flat files and all that sort of stuff. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, take it to a luthier that, you know, that would be able to do it for you. That being said, that's the part of this project. Next time, we're gonna go ahead and string this baby up and put the tremolo on it. And I'm gonna show you how to set up a Floyd Rose tremolo to float in about 10 minutes. All these people that think you have to fight with this thing for hours to get it right, there's a way to do it, and I'll show you. My name is Dylan, this is Dylan Talks Tone, and we will talk to you next time.